Sometimes we live without being aware of how thin the ice we're walking on is. On my first trip to the United States, I, without a visa, entered by car from Ontario, Canada, via Buffalo, New York. With a gang of salesmen, it was January 1960, and like all Canadians with ambition, we intended to enjoy the climate in Florida for the winter. We had by now spent 6 months selling magazines from door to door all over Ontario and Quebec. There were many adventures on the long drive, and all the time I learned more about selling and enjoying the good life. I was a useful member of the team. I went into all the hotels and motels and booked up to 5 rooms for everybody with bathrooms and negotiated the rental as low as I could. The impression I gave of being serious and regular made it possible for us not to have to make deposits or pay too much. But the owners and my fellow salesmen all held me with respect. I really did not know why. 18 years old. Anyway, any time we went through a small town, we would stop, either for breakfast or lunch. And after a meal, split up and take a number of streets each and do a door-to-door campaign. I learned very quickly to adapt my voice to the local accent, so I did not have to spend a long time talking to the curious Americans, who all wanted to know about GB. The talking would have ruined any chance of a quick sale and leave me without an income. This worked very well, as my ignorance of the law was my protection. We would at any time find ourselves the 3rd or 4th salesman trying to get attention from the housewife that day. And we had to get her attention and even a coffee and have a sales pitch and earn some money. Funny, you do this so often, you get full of confidence and pass that on to the customer. The assumption was always that I was a student trying to earn money to get back to college. I was from that state and that I was like a relative they might like to help, until we got to Florida. In those days, it was a small town, perhaps 3,000 to 5,000 in population. I remember it was 1:30 in the afternoon, and I knocked on the door. And a very nice local housewife answered the door and asked me in straight away. Her husband had just finished his lunch, and the two of them sat me down to hear my story. It was then I noticed that the man had the uniform of a sheriff and was really interested in what I had to say. His first question was, could he see my sales license from the local BBB, Better Business Bureau? Never heard of them, as he'd not seen me in the office to register as a salesman. And of course all salesmen had to be registered. And in addition, did I have paperwork to show that I was allowed to sell door to door in the city of Orlando, and also licensed in the state of Florida? I was totally unaware that these were minimum requirements for the freedom to knock on residential doors all over the USA. I remember totally dying inside as I very calmly asked, could I have a coffee? And sat very comfortably discussing how Orlando was such a wonderful city with a bright future. This was long before Disney landed with the largest investment in the world of entertainment. I, of course, invented the story that my boss looked after all these things and would have no problem in taking the papers to the police station later. I made sure that I failed to sell anything and left shortly thereafter. The speed that I made to the pickup point had to be seen to be believed. And we all left Orlando very rapidly after that. What a trip. From Orlando we went to St. Petersburg in Florida, and though it was February, the day temperature was often 80 degrees Fahrenheit. At St. Petersburg we spent the morning selling and then went to Clearwater Beach in the afternoon. I was always on the borderline, broke or nearly, and had to sell to pay my way. I persuaded my gang to rest, and I changed in the beach changing room into my swimming gear. My clothes had no value, but I did have $2, and I stuck them between the boards of the bench, so they were safe and could not be seen. I then struck out to the sea. It was less than 100 yards away. I began to put on speed and noticed a big wooden sign with the number 57 written on it, and thought it strange for Heinz to have an advert on the beach. I gathered speed, and when I got to the water's edge, I was going flat out. I raced faster. It was only when I was far out enough to dive in did I realise what the 57 was for. My feet in running had registered the temperature, but the message had not got to my brain. The shock has remained with me to this day. As I landed in the water, full belt on a dive, you don't think. The Gulf of Mexico may sound warm, but the seawater is the same temperature all the world over. Cold! Yes, that 57 was the water temperature. My screams of shock were only drowned by the water. The money was there when I got back to the change room. We went on down to Miami, selling and enjoying the company of my friends, fellow salesmen. It became a way of life. Drinking beer in the evening and playing bridge was how we passed our time. One evening, though, I got the bridge hand of a lifetime. On a totally random basis, I drew 13 cards. All the aces, all the kings, queens, and the lowest card in my hand was the jack. I had a problem in deciding what to bid. Can you imagine? In the 60 years since, I've never seen such a hand again. And I've often wondered what the chances are of repeating that again. Whilst working, I could earn as much as $1,000 in a day, or nothing. I frequently was so lazy that I ran my cash down to starvation and was incentivized to work hard to recover so I could enjoy myself again. The risks we take when young do not really warrant the return. Skating on thin ice adds to the excitement, but it might have made future trips impossible. And I didn't think about that when I was 18. I was very lucky that it wasn't something that in any way interfered with my future career. Perhaps if you're looking at this, look at your visa, look at your legality of where you are. If you ever want to go back where you are, make sure you're there legitimately, or have a very good, shall we say, story that allows you to be where you are. Thank you.